She watched the Mafia boss return home in a wheelchair, broken and helpless after the attack. His wife mocked him in front of guests, calling him dead weight. What they didn't know, the maid who cleaned his drool and whispered comfort was the only one who saw his fingers move, and she was an undercover cop who just chose the wrong side. The bullet shattered the window before Adrian Moretti even heard the shot. Glass exploded across the leather interior of the Rolls-Royce as his driver's head snapped forward, dead before he could scream. The car swerved violently, tires screaming against wet asphalt. Adrian's bodyguard, Marco, lunged to cover him, but the second shot caught Marco in the throat. Blood sprayed across Adrian's white shirt as the car flipped. Metal crunched. The world spun. Then silence. Adrian hung upside down, held by his seatbelt, ears ringing. Through the cracked windshield, he saw shadows approaching, 3 men with rifles. Professional. Efficient. This wasn't a random attack. His hand found the Glock hidden beneath his seat. The pain in his ribs told him something was broken, but pain was an old friend. He'd built his empire on pain. The first gunman peered through the shattered window. Adrian put a bullet between his eyes. The other 2 opened fire immediately. Adrian rolled from the wreckage, using the overturned car as cover. His vision blurred. Blood ran down his face. But his hands were steady as he fired back, dropping the second attacker. The third man charged. Amateur mistake. Adrian waited until he was close, then shot him in the kneecap. The man collapsed, screaming. Adrian limped over, pressed the gun to the man's forehead. Who sent you? The man's eyes were wild with pain and fear. I don't know. We just got the route, the timing, everything we needed was in an envelope, cash up front. Who delivered the envelope? A woman. Blonde, expensive perfume. That's all I saw, I swear to God. Adrian pulled the trigger. He had his answer. Only 5 people knew his route tonight. His driver, dead. Marco, dead. His underboss, Tommaso. His lawyer, Janelli. And his wife, Bianca. Sirens wailed in the distance. Adrian stumbled to the nearby woods, leaving a trail of blood. His phone was smashed, but he didn't need it. 3 miles through the forest, there was a safe house. He'd prepared for this day since he was 16 years old, when his own father was betrayed. In the Mafia, trust was a luxury that got you killed. Dr. Russo arrived at the safe house within 2 hours, asking no questions. He delivered Adrian's sister's baby and removed bullets from Adrian's enemies. Loyalty bought with protection, not fear. 2 broken ribs, concussion, lacerations, Russo said, wrapping Adrian's torso. You should be in a hospital. No hospitals, Adrian's voice was gravel. I need you to do something else. Russo paused, surgical tape in hand. Tomorrow morning, you're going to leak information. Tell everyone you treated me. Tell them I'm alive, but Adrian met the doctor's eyes. Tell them I'm paralyzed. Completely. A vegetable who can't speak, can't move, can't do anything but breathe. Adrian, that's... Someone in my inner circle tried to kill me tonight. They think they succeeded. Let them keep thinking that. A paralyzed Dawn is no threat. They'll get comfortable. Make mistakes, he smiled, though it hurt. And I'll be watching from my wheelchair, waiting to see who celebrates my downfall.
Dr. Russo understood.
In their world, the appearance of weakness was sometimes the deadliest weapon. How long will you maintain this? As long as it takes to find the snake in my house. Adrian's jaw clenched. Starting with my wife. By sunrise, the news spread through the underworld like wildfire. Adrian Moretti, the most feared Don in the city, was alive but destroyed. Paralyzed from the neck down. Brain damage. A broken king in a wheelchair. Adrian watched the responses from the safe house, monitoring encrypted calls. Tommaso sounded genuinely devastated. Janelli was silent. But it was Bianca's reaction that confirmed everything. She didn't cry. She didn't rush to the hospital. She called her personal lawyer and asked about Adrian's will. 48 hours after the attack, Dr. Russo transported Adrian back to his estate. The staff lined up to see their master return, some crying, some stone-faced. Adrian sat motionless in the wheelchair, eyes unfocused, drool carefully placed at the corner of his mouth. Bianca stood at the mansion's entrance in a black dress that cost more than most people's cars. Her face was a perfect mask of grief for the watching staff. But Adrian saw what others didn't, the flash of satisfaction in her eyes, quickly hidden. "Put him in the East Wing," she told the doctor coldly. "Away from the main rooms. I won't have guests disturbed by this." Adrian wanted to laugh. Even now, she thought of appearances. As they wheeled him through the marble hallways of his own home, Adrian noticed something else. A new face among the staff, a young woman with dark hair and cautious eyes, wearing a maid's uniform. She stood apart from the others, watching the scene with an expression Adrian couldn't quite read. Not pity, not disgust. Something else. Awareness, maybe. Or recognition. Their eyes met, for just a moment. She looked away quickly, but Adrian had seen enough. A new maid, hired the day before his attack. Coincidence? In his world, coincidences didn't exist. Dr. Russo settled Adrian into the specially prepared bedroom. Medical equipment lined the walls, monitors for stands, everything needed for a man who couldn't move. The doctor had played his part perfectly. "I'll check on you tomorrow," Russo said, loud enough for the hovering staff to hear. Then, leaning close to adjust Adrian's pillow, he whispered, "Your phone is taped under the nightstand. Emergency number programmed. Be careful." Adrian gave no response, maintaining his blank stare. But inside, his mind was already working. The trap was set. The predators thought their prey was helpless. Now he would watch his own home become a hunting ground, where masks would slip and truths would emerge. And somewhere in this mansion of lies, the woman who'd promised to love him until death was planning to make that death come very soon. The game had begun. The first night in his own prison was the longest of Adrian's life. He lay motionless in the oversized bed, listening to footsteps echo through the hallways. Voices drifted through the door, servants discussing schedules, security changing shifts, and once, Bianca's laugh from somewhere distant. Cold and sharp, like breaking glass. At 2 a.m., his door opened. Adrian kept his breathing steady, eyes half closed. The new maid entered, carrying fresh towels. She moved quietly, efficiently, placing them in the bathroom. But then she stopped beside his bed. Her hand hovered near his wrist, as if checking his pulse without touching him. Strange. Most people couldn't stand being near someone they thought was helpless. But she seemed alert, watchful. "I'm Mila," she whispered, though he gave no sign of hearing. "I'll be taking care of you during night shifts." She adjusted his blanket, her movements gentle but professional. Then she left as silently as she'd arrived. Adrian filed the interaction away. Everyone in this house was a suspect until proven otherwise. Morning arrived with unwelcome fanfare. Bianca swept into his room at 9 o'clock, followed by 3 interior designers. She'd changed into a crisp white pantsuit, her blonde hair pulled back severely. "We need to redecorate this wing," she announced, not even glancing at Adrian. "It's too depressing. Dark woods, heavy curtains, it feels like a tomb." One designer nervously suggested, "Mrs. Moretti, perhaps we should wait until..." "Until what? Until he gets better?" Bianca's laugh was bitter. "The doctors said this is permanent. I'm not going to let this entire mansion become a memorial to what he used to be." She walked to the window, throwing open the curtains. Sunlight flooded the room, and Adrian's sensitive eyes watered involuntarily, a genuine reaction he couldn't control.
"See?
He can't even tolerate light anymore," Bianca turned to the designers. "I want this room made functional but minimal. No expensive art, no antiques.
Just sterile.
Medical." Adrian wanted to speak, to rage, to show her the truth. But he forced himself to remain still. This coldness, this eagerness to erase him, it wasn't grief. It was liberation. His wife was showing her true face. The designers measured and photographed while Bianca made calls in the corner, her voice dropping to whispers. Adrian caught fragments. "The lawyer confirmed," and "need to move quickly before." Then Mila entered with a breakfast tray. "What are you doing here?"
Bianca snapped.
I didn't call for food service. Mila kept her eyes down. Dr. Russo's orders, ma'am. Mr. Moretti needs to be fed every 4 hours, or the feeding tube.
Fine. Fine, Bianca waved dismissively.
But make it quick. We're working. Mila approached Adrian's bedside and carefully raised the bed to a sitting position. She'd brought oatmeal, soft and easy to swallow. As she lifted the spoon to his lips, her hand was remarkably steady. Small bites, she murmured, as if to herself. Adrian allowed the food into his mouth, then deliberately let most of it dribble down his chin. Testing her. Most people would show disgust, frustration. Mila simply wiped his face with a cloth, patient and unbothered. It's okay, she said softly. We'll try again. From across the room, Bianca laughed. Look at him. The great Adrian Moretti, drooling like an infant. All that power, all that fear he commanded, gone. The designers shifted uncomfortably. Even they knew speaking ill of the Don was dangerous, paralyzed or not. But Bianca was fearless now. You know what the irony is? He always said weakness was unforgivable. That a man who couldn't defend himself deserved whatever happened to him, she smiled. I wonder if he can hear me. If somewhere in that broken brain, he understands that he's become exactly what he despised. Mila's hand tightened almost imperceptibly on the spoon. Adrian noticed. Was it anger? Sympathy. Mrs. Moretti, one designer interrupted nervously. We should discuss the color palette. Yes, Bianca walked toward the door. Mila, finish up and get out. And tell the staff I'm limiting visitors. Only essential medical personnel and immediate family. I won't have people parading through here, out of morbid curiosity. After they left, silence filled the room. Mila continued feeding Adrian, methodical and calm. But when she brought the cloth to wipe his mouth again, she leaned close. Her voice was barely a breath. I'm sorry you have to hear her speak to you that way. Adrian's heart rate spiked. The monitor beside his bed registered it with a soft beep. Mila glanced at the screen, then back at him. For one dangerous second, their eyes truly met. She saw something. He was certain of it. But she said nothing more, simply finished her task and cleaned up. Before leaving, she adjusted his pillows with unexpected gentleness. Rest well, Mr. Moretti. The door clicked shut. Adrian stared at the ceiling, his mind racing. Bianca had revealed her contempt. That was expected. But Mila, the new maid who appeared the day before his murder attempt, she was the real mystery. Was she part of the plot? Or something else entirely? Either way, he would find out. In this mansion of masks, everyone would eventually slip. And when they did, Adrian Moretti would be watching. The brunch began at 11 the next morning, and Adrian heard it coming long before the guests arrived. Staff rushed through the hallways, setting up tables on the south terrace. Crystal clinked. Champagne bottles popped. Bianca's voice rang out, giving orders like a general commanding troops. At 10:30, two servants wheeled Adrian's bed onto the covered portion of the terrace. He was positioned like a grotesque centerpiece, visible to all, but separated by a silk curtain that did nothing to block sound. Perfect, Bianca said, examining the setup. Let them see what's become of him. It'll make the transition easier. Adrian recognized the guests by their voices as they arrived. Elena Russo, wife of a rival family's consigliera. Veronica DeLuca, a socialite who traded gossip like currency. Marcus and Sophia Chun, new money trying to buy their way into old circles. And others, 12 in total, all people who'd once feared Adrian's power. Now they pitted him. Or pretended to.
Bianca, darling.
Elena's voice dripped false sympathy. How are you holding up? This must be so difficult. I'm managing. Bianca's tone was brave suffering, perfectly rehearsed. One day at a time. The doctors say there's no hope of recovery, so I'm trying to adjust to this new reality. You're so strong, Veronica cooed. If it were my husband, I don't know what I'd do. Well, we have to be practical. Bianca's heels clicked as she moved to the bar. Life goes on, doesn't it? Adrian wouldn't want me to stop living just because he's, well. Champagne flutes were distributed. Laughter bubbled up, growing louder as the alcohol flowed. Within 30 minutes, they'd nearly forgotten Adrian was there. Nearly. I heard the Calabrese family is making moves in the harbor, Marcuschan said. With Adrian out of commission, they think it's open territory. Let them try. Bianca's voice carried a new edge. Adrian's empire doesn't crumble just because he's in a wheelchair. I'm handling things now. Silence fell. Even through the curtain, Adrian could feel the shock. Elena recovered first. You? Bianca, dear, no offense, but the families won't take orders from a woman?
Bianca laughed.
Elena, this isn't the 1950s. I've been watching Adrian operate for 8 years. I know every contact, every deal, every pressure point. The only difference is I'll do it with more intelligence and less violence. The other Dons will never accept it, Sophia whispered. They will when they realize I'm their only option. Adrian's underboss Tommaso is loyal but stupid. His lawyer Janelli is brilliant but weak.
Me?
Bianca's smile was audible. I'm what this organization needs. Evolution. Adrian's jaw clenched behind his slack expression. She wasn't just celebrating his downfall, she was seizing his throne. A servant brought food. The conversation shifted to lighter topics, fashion, vacation homes, who was sleeping with whom. But then Mila appeared with a tray, approaching Adrian's bed. What's she doing? Veronica asked. Feeding time, Bianca said dismissively. Mila, do you have to do this now? Dr. Russo's schedule, ma'am. Mila's voice was quiet but firm. Mr. Moretti needs to eat. Fine, but keep it quick. And keep it quiet. Mila pulled back the curtain slightly, just enough to work. The guests could now see Adrian fully, vacant eyes, slack jaw, a bib around his neck like a child. She spooned soup toward his mouth. Adrian accepted it, then deliberately choked, coughing and sputtering. Soup sprayed across the bib and sheets. The guests gasped. Someone said, "Oh God, that's horrible." Mila, clean that up.
Bianca snapped.
This is exactly why I said not now. But Mila didn't flinch. She carefully wiped Adrian's face, her touch gentle despite the mess. It's all right, she murmured to him, not to the audience. Try again, smaller sips. Look at him, Bianca said to her guests, her voice rising. The great Adrian Moretti. Men used to cross the street to avoid him. Politicians took his calls at midnight. And now he can't even swallow soup without help. She walked to Adrian's bedside, standing over him. Her perfume, Chanel No. 5, the same scent the assassin had described, filled his nostrils. You know what's funny? Bianca traced a finger along the bed rail. He always said I was dead weight, that I was just a pretty face who spent his money. He made me feel small, useless, ornamental. Her voice hardened. Now look at us. I'm running his empire, entertaining his associates, making decisions that affect millions of dollars. And he's the dead weight. Useless. Ornamental. She leaned close, her breath hot against his ear. Karma is a bitch, isn't it, darling? Adrian felt rage boiling in his chest, but he kept his eyes unfocused, his body limp. One wrong move, and everything was over. Mila stepped between them, blocking Bianca's view. Mrs. Moretti, I need to change his sheets. Perhaps you and your guests would be more comfortable. Yes, yes. Get him out of here, Bianca waved her hand. This is supposed to be a celebration, not a funeral. As the servants wheeled Adrian away, he heard Bianca's voice drift after him. To new beginnings. Glasses clinked. They drank to his downfall. And through it all, Mila walked beside his bed, her hand resting protectively on the rail. When they were out of earshot, she whispered something that made Adrian's heart skip. Don't worry, sir. I'm here. The nights were when Adrian truly came alive. After the humiliation of the brunch, the staff returned him to his room. Mila helped settle him back into bed, her movements efficient but careful. The other servants left quickly, eager to return to their own lives. But Mila stayed. I'll be back at midnight for your medication, she said, adjusting the drip that wasn't actually connected to his vein. Dr. Russo had made it purely cosmetic. Try to rest.
Rest.
as if he could rest knowing his wife was dismantling everything he'd built. The hours crawled past. At 9 p.m., Bianca's voice echoed from downstairs, entertaining someone new.
Male.
Deep voice. Not Tommaso or Janelli. Adrian strained to hear, but caught only fragments through the old mansion's walls. At 11:45 p.m., his door opened quietly. Mila entered carrying a medical tray. She wore the same black maid's uniform, but something was different. Her posture. The way her eyes scanned the room before she approached, checking corners, windows, the gap under the door. She wasn't moving like a maid. She was moving like someone trained. "Time for your medication, Mr. Moretti," she said in a normal voice. Then she moved to his bedside and leaned close, adjusting his pillow. Her whisper was barely audible. "Don't react. Just listen." Adrian kept his breathing steady. "When they changed your clothes yesterday, I noticed something." Her hands worked at his collar, appearing to check his pulse. "There's a device sewn into your shirt. Right here." Her finger pressed against the fabric near his shoulder. Adrian felt it, a small, hard bump he'd assumed was a medical sensor. "It's a tracking bug," Mila continued, her voice clinical. "Audio and GPS. Someone's been monitoring you since you arrived home. Possibly before." Adrian's mind raced. The bug meant whoever wanted him dead wasn't satisfied with his paralyzed state. They were watching, listening, making sure he was truly helpless. Mila produced a small pair of scissors from her pocket. "I'm going to remove it. If anyone's listening, they'll think the device malfunctioned. But we have to be quick." She cut carefully through the fabric, extracting a device no bigger than a button. Without hesitation, she dropped it into a glass of water on his nightstand, destroying it instantly. "There," she said aloud in her normal voice. "Your collar was irritating your skin. I've smoothed it out." Then she returned to whispering. "This means your wife isn't working alone. Someone with technical resources is helping her. Someone who wanted eyes and ears on you even in this state." Adrian wanted to ask 1,000 questions. Who was she? How did she know about surveillance equipment? Why was she helping him? But he couldn't speak. Not yet. Mila checked the monitors, her face neutral. But her next whisper sent ice through his veins. "I saw her tonight. Your wife. She met with a man in the East Library, tall, scar on his left cheek, expensive suit. They were looking at documents, maps of the city, territory divisions."
Salvatore. Had to be.
Salvatore Russo, captain of the Bianchi family and Adrian's longtime rival. The scar was from a knife fight 10 years ago, a fight Adrian had won. "They didn't see me," Mila continued. "But I heard enough. They're planning something for next week." She kept saying, "Once the paperwork is finalized." She stepped back, her expression carefully blank. "I'll be back in 4 hours to check on you. If you need anything before then." She paused, meeting his eyes. For a moment, something flickered in her gaze. Conflict, maybe. Or fear. "I'll be close." After she left, Adrian lay in the darkness, processing everything. Mila had found the bug. She'd removed it without hesitation, knowing it would alert whoever planted it. She'd spied on Bianca and reported back. But she'd also hesitated, shown doubt. She wasn't just a maid. But she wasn't fully committed to helping him either. At 3 a.m., Adrian heard footsteps outside his door. They stopped, waited, then retreated. Someone had come to check on him after the tracking device died. Finding him asleep and helpless, they'd left. But they'd be more careful now, more suspicious. Adrian waited until he was certain he was alone, then carefully turned his head toward the window. Moonlight painted silver squares across the floor. His body ached from staying motionless, but the pain reminded him he was alive, awake, alert. In the morning, he would continue his performance. Let Bianca and Salvatore think they were winning. Let them get comfortable. But now he had an unexpected variable. Mila, the maid who moved like a soldier and noticed things she shouldn't. Was she sent by his enemies to watch him? Or was she something else entirely? Either way, she'd just become the most important piece on the board. And in 3 days, when he'd gathered enough evidence of Bianca's treason, He would find out whose side she was really on. The game had just gotten far more complicated. Day 3 began with rain hammering against the windows. Adrian had been moved to a chair by the window, positioned like a mannequin to stare at nothing. The staff rotated through their duties, feeding him, checking vitals, speaking to him as if he were already dead. Only Mila treated him like a person, and even she maintained careful distance when others were present. At 2 p.m., Bianca entered his room wearing a black raincoat and carrying an umbrella. "I'm going out," she announced to the nurse on duty. "Appointments in the city. I'll be back late, maybe not until tomorrow. Make sure he's taken care of."
The nurse nodded.
Bianca didn't even glance at Adrian before leaving. Adrian tracked her movements by sound, heels clicking down the marble hallway, the front door opening, her car starting. He'd expected this. Bianca had been restless for days, taking calls in locked rooms, leaving the estate at odd hours.
She was building something.
And today, she was careless enough to do it in daylight. 20 minutes after Bianca left, Mila appeared in his doorway. She looked at the nurse. "I'll watch Mr. Moretti for a while. You should take your lunch break." The nurse hesitated. "I'm supposed to stay. Dr. Russo said I'm qualified to monitor him."
"Go."
"You've been here since 6 this morning." The nurse left gratefully. The moment she was gone, Mila's entire demeanor changed. She moved to the window, watching the driveway below. "Your wife just left," Mila said quietly, not looking at Adrian. "I'm going to follow her. I need to know where she's going, who she's meeting." She turned to face him, and for the first time, Adrian saw real conflict in her eyes. "I shouldn't be doing this. I should just
observe,
report. But something's wrong here, and if I don't act, you're going to die." She grabbed her own coat from the closet. How long had that been there? "I'll be back before anyone notices I'm gone. If someone comes, you're alone, because I went to get fresh linens. Understand?" Adrian couldn't respond, but she seemed to take his silence as agreement. Then she did something unexpected. She pulled out her phone, set it to record, and placed it on the windowsill aimed at him. "Insurance," she said. "If something happens to me, this proves you were here the whole time." She left through the servants' entrance. Mila returned 4 hours later, soaked from the rain and breathing hard. She locked the door behind her, grabbed her phone, and sank into the chair beside Adrian's wheelchair. Her hands were shaking. "I followed her to the Harbor District," she whispered, her voice tight. "An apartment building, expensive but anonymous. 5th floor, corner unit." She pulled out a small camera from her pocket, not a phone, but a professional surveillance device. Her fingers fumbled with it as she scrolled through images. She met him there. Salvatore Russo. I confirmed his identity through facial recognition. She turned the camera toward Adrian, showing him. The photos were damning. Bianca entering the building. Bianca kissing Salvatore in the doorway. And then, most damning of all, photos taken through a partially open window of the two of them at a table covered in documents. "They're drawing up papers," Mila continued, zooming in. "Transfer documents for your assets. Business licenses. Property deeds. She's signing everything over to a shell corporation that Salvatore controls." She scrolled to another image, Bianca and Salvatore toasting with champagne, her head thrown back in laughter. "They think they've won," Mila said bitterly. "She kept calling you the vegetable, said by next week she'd be the official head of the Moretti operations and Salvatore would have what he's always wanted, control of the Eastern Docks." Adrian's blood boiled. Not just betrayal, but theft. Bianca wasn't just trying to kill him, she was erasing him. Mila set the camera down and buried her face in her hands. "I got too close. I think Salvatore's security spotted me leaving the building. They didn't follow me." But she looked up, fear clear in her eyes. "If they figure out who I am, if they connect me to this house." She stood abruptly, pacing. "I need to report this. I need to call I need to tell someone." She pulled out her phone, started to dial, then stopped. Adrian watched her internal struggle play out across her face. "No," she said finally, lowering the phone. "Not yet. If I report now, they'll just arrest her for adultery and fraud. They won't get Salvatore for attempted murder. They won't get the full conspiracy. She turned to Adrian, and in that moment, he saw who she really was. Not a maid. Not even just a concerned employee. She was law enforcement. Had to be. The equipment, the training, the talk of reporting. She was a plant. But she was a plant who'd just chosen to protect him over her mission. "I'll get you proof," she said, her voice hardening with resolve. "Proof that holds up in court. Proof that takes them both down." She moved closer, kneeling beside his wheelchair. "I don't know if you can hear me, Mr. Moretti. I don't know if you understand anything. But I promise you, they won't get away with this." Her hand rested briefly on his.
Warm. Steady.
Real. Then she stood, wiped her eyes, and transformed back into the meek maid. She adjusted his blanket, checked his monitors, and unlocked the door just as the evening nurse arrived. "He's been very calm," Mila reported. "No issues at all." But Adrian had seen everything. The photos. The fear. The decision. Mila was risking her life for him, and she didn't even know he could understand. The question was, when he finally revealed the truth, whose side would she choose? Midnight found Adrian alone, staring at the ceiling and replaying Mila's confession in his mind. She was a cop. Or FBI. Maybe even something deeper, organized crime task force, undercover operative. The signs were all there. The surveillance equipment, the facial recognition software, her slip about reporting she'd been planted in his house to gather evidence against him, not to save him. Yet she'd chosen to help him anyway. The door opened without warning. Mila slipped inside, locking it behind her. She looked exhausted, her hair loose from its usual bun, dark circles under her eyes. She crossed to his bedside and sat down heavily in the chair. "I can't do this anymore," she whispered. "I can't keep pretending." She pulled something from her ear, a tiny flesh-colored device, so small Adrian had never noticed it. She stared at it in her palm like it was a poisonous insect. "I need to tell you something, even if you can't understand. Even if you can't hear me." She took a shaky breath. "I'm not really a maid." Adrian kept his breathing steady, his eyes unfocused. "I was sent here to watch you. To gather evidence of your crimes. Money laundering, racketeering, conspiracy to commit murder. They have files on you going back 15 years, she laughed bitterly. "I've been wearing this earpiece for 6 months, feeding information to my handler. Every conversation you had, every meeting, every phone call I could overhear." She set the earpiece on the nightstand. "But then the attack happened and you came back like this, and everything changed." She looked at him, really looked at him. "Your wife is trying to kill you. Not arrest you, not expose you, kill you. And my handler wants me to let it happen. He said it solves the problem without a trial." Her voice broke. "They want me to stand back and watch you die." She stood abruptly, pacing. "I've seen things these past 3 days. The way she talks about you, the way she celebrates your suffering. And Salvatore, he's worse than you ever were. His family deals in human trafficking, Mr. Moretti. Children. Your empire might be built on violence, but you have lines you don't cross." She stopped at the window, her reflection ghostly in the dark glass. "I told my handler about Bianca and Salvatore. About the documents, the affair, the conspiracy. You know what he said?" She turned back to Adrian. "He said to let it play out. That once you're dead and Bianca controls your assets, they can flip her. Make her testify against Salvatore. Use your death to take down a bigger target." Her hands clenched into fists. "They're going to let you die for a case strategy." She returned to his bedside, kneeling so they were eye level. "I know you probably can't understand me. I know you're probably gone, trapped in your own mind. But I need you to know, I'm not going to let that happen. I don't care what my orders are." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "My name is Mila Torres. I'm a federal agent with the Organized Crime Task Force. I've been undercover for 8 months, and I'm about to throw away my entire career to save a Mafia boss." She laughed through her tears. "My handler is going to hear this confession through the wire. He's probably on his way here right now to pull me out. But I don't care anymore. Some things are more important than a case." Adrian's mind raced. She'd just exposed herself completely, to him, to her handler, to anyone who might be listening. She'd sacrificed her cover, her mission, everything. For him. A man she thought couldn't even hear her. Mila wiped her eyes and reached for his hand. I need to get you a phone. You need to contact someone you trust, if there's anyone left. Tommaso, maybe? Or your lawyer? She started to stand, but Adrian made a choice. He moved his finger. Just slightly, just enough to press against her palm.
Mila froze.
Did you just? She looked down at their hands, then at his face. Mr. Moretti? He did it again. 2 deliberate squeezes. Oh my God. She released his hand and stepped back, her eyes wide. You can hear me. You can understand. Adrian wanted to speak, to tell her everything, but he couldn't risk it. Not yet. Not with her earpiece still transmitting. But he could communicate. He moved his eyes deliberately to the earpiece on the nightstand, then back to her. She understood immediately. My handler. You're right. He's listening. She grabbed the device and crushed it under her heel. Not anymore. She returned to his side, her voice urgent. How long? How long have you been conscious? Adrian blinked once. Then twice. Then 3 times. Since the beginning, she breathed. You've been awake this whole time. The paralysis, it's fake. You're hunting them. 1 blink.
Yes.
And I just blew my cover to save someone who is never in danger, she laughed, the sound edged with hysteria. You don't need me at all. Adrian moved his hand again, this time managing to point 1 finger toward the window. Toward the grounds where Bianca's security patrolled. Where Salvatore's men had surely infiltrated. Mila followed his gesture and understood. You need me to keep watching them. To get evidence. 1 blink. But now my handler knows I've gone rogue. They'll pull me out, or worse, arrest me for obstruction. She met his eyes. I'm caught between 2 sides now. The law I swore to uphold. And she didn't finish the sentence.
She didn't need to.
She was caught between duty and something else. Something neither of them had expected. The moment Mila left his room, Adrian waited. He counted to 300, 5 full minutes to ensure she was gone and no one else was coming. Then, slowly, he sat up in bed. Pain shot through his muscles. 3 days of forced immobility had taken their toll, but he'd been exercising in secret during the brief windows of privacy. Flexing. Tensing. Keeping his body from atrophy. He swung his legs over the side of the bed, testing their strength. Weak, but functional. Good enough. Adrian stood, gripping the bed rail for support. The room spun slightly. The concussion wasn't fully healed. But he'd fought through worse. He'd built an empire through worse. He moved to the window, staying in the shadows. The estate grounds spread below, manicured gardens, the long driveway, security posts at each corner. His security. Except some of them weren't his anymore. 2 guards stood by the east gate, smoking. One of them he recognized, Carlo, loyal for 15 years. The other was new, hired in the past month. Bianca's doing, probably. How many of his own men had been replaced? Adrian turned from the window and surveyed his prison. The medical equipment was real, but unnecessary. The monitors tracking nothing. The 4 drip feeding into a bag hidden beneath the bed, not into his veins. Dr. Russo had done well, but the room itself was a vulnerability. He moved to the closet, opening it quietly. His clothes hung there, untouched since the attack. Behind them, he felt along the wall until he found the seam, a hidden panel he'd installed years ago when the east wing was renovated. The panel opened, revealing a small cache. A Glock 19 with 2 magazines. A burner phone, fully charged.
Cash.
And a knife, his father's knife, the one he'd carried since he was 20. Adrian took the gun first, checking the chamber. Loaded. He tucked it into the waistband of his pajamas. The knife went into his sock. The phone he powered on. 3 missed calls. All from Tommaso, his underboss. Adrian dialed. Tommaso answered on the first ring. Who the hell is? It's me, Adrian said quietly. Silence. Then, Boss? But they said you couldn't. I know what they said. Listen carefully because I don't have much time. Adrian moved back to the bed, sitting on the edge. The paralysis is fake. The attack was orchestrated by Bianca and Salvatore Russo. They're planning to take over the organization. That treacherous bitch. I'll kill her myself. No, Adrian's voice cut like a blade. You do nothing. You change nothing. If she suspects we know, she'll accelerate her timeline. I need more evidence, more proof of who else is involved. What do you need me to do? Keep the legitimate operations running. Keep the men loyal but quiet. And watch Janelli. I still don't know if my lawyer is compromised. Janelli's clean, boss. I'd stake my life on it. He's been trying to arrange visits to see you, but your wife keeps blocking him. That tracked. Bianca would want to isolate him from anyone loyal.
Good.
Tell Janelli to file paperwork. Medical power of attorney challenges. Anything to slow down whatever legal transfers Bianca's attempting. Make it look like standard legal procedure, not resistance.
Done.
What about Salvatore? I'll handle Salvatore. Adrian's grip tightened on the phone. But I need you to do something else. There's a federal agent planted in my house. A maid named Mila Torres. Tommaso cursed. Want me to dispose of?
No.
She's helping us. She doesn't realize it, but she's caught in the middle, and she's feeding me information about Bianca. Adrian paused. When this is over, she walks away clean.
No retaliation.
That's an order. Boss, she's a Fed. She's also the only reason I know about the tracking device in my collar. The only reason I have photos of Bianca with Salvatore. She's risking everything to help me, and I protect people who are loyal. His voice hardened. Even if they're on the wrong side. Tommaso was quiet for a moment. You like her. I trust her. There's a difference. If you say so, boss. Adrian ended the call and destroyed the SIM card, flushing it down the toilet. Then he returned to his exercises. Leg lifts. Careful squats. Arm rotations. His body protested each movement, but he pushed through. He had perhaps 4 more days before Bianca made her final move. 4 days to regain full strength. By the window, he practiced his stance. Drew the gun.
Aimed.
His hands were steady despite 3 days of inactivity. Still a killer. Still dangerous. He returned everything to the hidden cache except the knife. That he kept under his pillow. If someone came for him tonight, he'd be ready. Adrian was back in bed, perfectly positioned, when he heard footsteps in the hallway. The door opened. Mila entered, her eyes red from crying. She started when she saw him, sitting up, alert, watching her. She closed the door quickly. You can move. Since the beginning, Adrian confirmed, his voice rough from disuse. The attack damaged me, but not like they think. I've been recovering while I watched. All of it? The brunch, your wife's cruelty. You heard everything. Everything. Mila's expression crumpled. I'm so sorry. I should have helped you sooner. I should have. You did exactly what you needed to do. Adrian's gaze held hers. You found the bug. You followed Bianca. You gave me information I couldn't get myself. You've been more loyal in 3 days than people I've known for years. I'm a federal agent sent to destroy you. And yet here you are, destroying your career instead. He tilted his head. Why? Mila looked away. Because what she's doing is wrong. Because letting you die to make a case is wrong. Because she met his eyes again. Because I see the man you are beneath the reputation. And that man deserves a chance. The moment stretched between them, heavy with unspoken things. Finally, Adrian lay back down, resuming his paralyzed pose. Your handler will come for you soon. When he does, you need to decide whose side you're on. The badge, he paused. Or the truth. Mila didn't answer. But she didn't leave either. She simply pulled the chair close and sat watch over him, a guardian caught between 2 worlds, protecting a monster who might be worth saving. Dawn broke gray and cold. Adrian woke to voices outside his door, low, tense, unfamiliar. He immediately went limp, eyes unfocused, body slack. The door opened without knocking. 2 men entered. One wore a landscaper's uniform, dirt under his fingernails, work boots scuffed with mud. But his posture was all wrong, too straight, too alert. The other dressed in a cheap suit, credentials already in his hand. Federal agents. Both of them. Clear the room, the suited one said to the nurse on duty. She left quickly, confused but obedient. The landscaper moved to the window, checking the grounds below. The suited agent approached Adrian's bed, studying him with cold calculation. He really looks gone, the man muttered. Then louder. Torres. I know you can hear me. We need to talk.
Now.
A door Adrian hadn't noticed, the bathroom, opened. Mila emerged, still in her maid's uniform, her face carefully blank. Agent Torres, the suited man said. I'm Special Agent Beck, your new handler. Agent Morales here tells me we have a problem. The landscaper, Morales, turned from the window. You went dark for 6 hours yesterday. Destroyed your earpiece. Then made contact with the subject, fully aware he's conscious and lucid.
Mila S. jo tightened.
He's not the subject anymore. He's the victim. That's not your determination to make, Beck snapped. You were assigned to gather evidence against Adrian Moretti, not protect him from his wife's schemes. His wife is conspiring with Salvatore Russo to commit murder and take over his organization. Russo deals in human trafficking. We know what Russo does. We also know that taking him down requires patience and strategy. Beck pulled out a tablet, showing Mila something Adrian couldn't see. Your original mission was to document Moretti's crimes. Instead, you've compromised the entire operation by going emotional. I haven't gone emotional. I've adapted to new intelligence. You've fallen for the target, Morales said quietly. It happens. It's why we're pulling you out. No, Mila's voice was steel. I'm not leaving. Not when Bianca and Salvatore are days away from murdering him. Beck stepped closer to her. Listen carefully, Torres. Adrian Moretti is responsible for at least 14 documented murders. He runs protection rackets that bleed small businesses dry. He launders millions through legitimate fronts. He is not a victim. He's a criminal who got caught in his own world's violence. He's still a human being who deserves protection under the law. The law you're currently violating by obstructing our investigation. Beck's voice dropped. You're done here. Pack your things. You're being reassigned, pending an internal review. Adrian watched through half-closed eyes. Mila's hands were shaking, but not with fear. With rage. If you pull me out, you lose your inside access, she said. You lose the evidence I've gathered on Bianca's conspiracy. You lose everything. We have enough. Your surveillance over the past 8 months gave us plenty. 8 months of watching Moretti run a tight operation with clear rules and boundaries. Nothing that will stick in court, and you know it, Mila crossed her arms. But 3 days of Bianca and Salvatore? I have photographs of document fraud, evidence of conspiracy to commit murder, testimony about the tracking device. That's prosecutable. Beck and Morales exchanged glances. You want to take down Salvatore?
Mila pressed.
Let me finish this. Let me get the evidence that puts both him and Bianca away. Then you can decide what to do about Moretti. And what happens when Moretti reveals he's been conscious this whole time? Morales asked. When he stands up and starts killing everyone involved. You going to stop him?
Mila hesitated.
Just for a second. But it was enough. She can't, Beck said. Because she's compromised. Torres, you're relieved of duty. Effective immediately. Sir. That's an order, Beck gestured to Morales. Escort her out. Make sure she takes nothing with her except personal belongings. All surveillance equipment stays. Morales moved toward Mila, but she stood her ground. If I leave, he dies, she said quietly. Bianca's timeline is accelerating. She's hiring outside contractors, probably for next week. You pull me out, and you'll have a murder on your hands that you could have prevented. Then we'll arrest Bianca now. Bring her in for questioning. On what grounds? Adultery? She'll lawyer up, Salvatore will disappear, and you'll lose everything. Mila's voice was desperate now. Give me 4 more days. That's all I need. Beck considered her for a long moment. Then he looked at Adrian, at the man in the bed who appeared completely unaware of the conversation happening around him. For days, Beck said finally. But you wear a new wire. You report every 6 hours. And if Moretti so much as twitches wrong, you call it in immediately. Understood? Understood. And Torres? When this is over, you're done with undercover work. You've lost your edge. Beck headed for the door. Don't make me regret this. After they left, silence filled the room.
Mila slowly approached Adrian S. Betzel.
She didn't speak, didn't acknowledge what had just happened. She simply adjusted his blanket, her hands gentle despite the tremor running through them. But as she turned to leave, she whispered, "For days. We have 4 days to end this." Adrian kept his eyes vacant, his breathing steady. But inside, he was counting down. 4 days until Bianca made her move. 4 days until Mila had to choose between her badge and her conscience. 4 days until Adrian Moretti rose from the dead and reminded everyone why they used to fear his name. The endgame was approaching. The storm hit on day 4, just as the sun disappeared behind black clouds. Thunder rumbled across the estate like artillery fire. Rain lashed the windows in sheets, and somewhere in the mansion, a shutter tore loose, banging rhythmically against stone. At 6 p.m., Bianca swept into Adrian's room wearing a travel outfit, designer jeans, cashmere sweater, her hair pulled into an elegant ponytail. "I'm leaving for a spa week," she announced to the nurse. "The stress of caring for him has been unbearable. I need time to process everything." She didn't look at Adrian once. "Mrs. Moretti with the storm," the nurse began. "I'm staying at the Harbor Grand, not flying anywhere." "I'll be fine." Bianca adjusted her diamond watch. "Mila will handle his overnight care. She's proven quite capable." Of course she had. Bianca wanted Mila alone with Adrian, probably hoping the young maid would make a mistake, miss something critical. Or perhaps Bianca simply didn't care anymore. A paralyzed husband was no threat. After Bianca left, the staff began their own exodus. The storm was worsening, and most lived off the estate. By 8 p.m., only 3 people remained: Adrian, Mila, and 1 security guard at the front gate. The power failed at 9 p.m. Emergency generators kicked in, but only for essential systems. Adrian's room plunged into darkness except for the glow of his monitors and a single battery-powered lamp Mila brought from the hallway. She set the lamp on the nightstand, its weak light casting long shadows across the walls. "Everyone's gone," she said quietly. "It's just us." Adrian remained still, but his mind was racing. This was either the perfect opportunity or the perfect trap. With Bianca gone and the house empty, they could talk freely. But if Salvatore's men were watching, this isolation made them vulnerable. Mila seemed to have the same thought. She checked the windows, locked the door, and wedged a chair under the handle. Then she returned to his bedside. "You can stop pretending now. I know you're awake." Adrian opened his eyes fully and sat up. In the lamp's dim glow, Mila looked exhausted, dark circles, worried lines around her mouth, tension in every movement. "Your handler came back?" he asked. "This morning." New wire, new rules. She touched her ear, where the tiny device was hidden. But the storm's interfering with transmission. We're essentially off-grid until it passes. Thunder cracked directly overhead. The emergency lights flickered. "Bianca's at the Harbor Grand with Salvatore," Mila continued. "I confirmed it through traffic cameras before the system went down. They're together, which means whatever they're planning happens soon. Tomorrow, probably. While I'm still helpless, and she has an alibi." Adrian swung his legs out of bed. "She's counting on the spa story to cover her timeline. Can you walk?" Well enough, he stood, steadier than days before. His body was remembering its strength. "How much evidence do you have?" Photos of her with Salvatore. Audio recordings of their conversations about asset transfers. Documentation of the tracking device. Mila pulled out her phone, scrolling through files. But nothing that directly ties them to the attack on your convoy. Nothing that proves attempted murder. "Then we need a confession." "They won't confess. They think they've won." Adrian smiled, cold and dangerous. They will when I rise from the dead. Mila stared at him. That's suicide. Salvatore has men throughout your security team. The moment you reveal yourself, they'll know their timeline is blown. They'll come at you with everything. Let them come. This is my house. My territory. Adrian moved to the hidden panel, retrieving his gun. I've been preparing for this. Adrian, she stopped herself, surprised she'd used his first name. You can't fight them alone. I'm not alone. I have Tommaso. I have loyal men ready to move on my signal. And you have me, Mila said quietly. Though I shouldn't. Though every regulation I've ever learned says I should arrest you right now. Adrian turned to face her fully. In the storm's half-light, the pretense between them fell away. No more Paralyzed Dawn. No more undercover Maid. Just two people caught in something neither had planned. Why are you doing this? He asked. Your career is over. Your handler said it himself. When this ends, you lose everything. Mila was silent for a long moment. Rain battered the windows. Lightning flashed, illuminating her face, conflicted, afraid, but certain. Because somewhere between watching your wife mock you and seeing you refuse to give up, I stopped seeing a criminal. She stepped closer. I started seeing a man fighting for his life against people worse than he ever was. And that man deserves someone in his corner. I've killed people, Mila. Done things that would horrify you. I know. I've read your file. All 47 pages. She didn't look away. But I've also seen you these 4 days. You could have revealed yourself, could have struck back with violence. Instead, you waited, gathered evidence, planned carefully. That's not the monster your file describes. Maybe I'm just better at hiding it. Or maybe you're trying to be better than what you were forced to become. Her voice softened. Your father was murdered when you were 16. You inherited an empire built on blood, and you survived the only way you knew how. That doesn't erase your crimes, but it explains them. Adrian felt something crack inside him, a wall he built 20 years ago, when mercy became a weakness and emotion became a liability. Why are you risking your life for me? The question came out raw, honest. Why, Mila? She reached up, her hand hovering near his face, not quite touching. Because I see the good man you hide beneath the violence. Because everyone deserves a chance at redemption. And because lightning struck close, thunder shaking the windows. In its flash, he saw everything in her eyes, fear and hope and something deeper, something impossible. Because when this is over, I want to know if the man I'm saving is worth it. Their faces were inches apart. The storm raged. The world waited outside. And for one stolen moment, Adrian Moretti allowed himself to feel something he'd thought died years ago. Hope. Morning came too bright, too calm. The storm had passed, leaving the estate washed clean and deceptively peaceful. Adrian was back in bed, playing his role, when the nurse returned at 7 a.m. Mila had already transformed back into the quiet maid, though their eyes met briefly as she left for her morning duties. Nothing had happened between them during the night, but everything had changed. At 9 a.m., the front door opened. Bianca's voice echoed through the halls, bright and energetic. I'm back. The spa was exactly what I needed. I feel like a new woman. Adrian heard her heels clicking up the stairs, accompanied by other footsteps. Heavy boots. Multiple people. His door opened. Bianca entered, followed by Salvatore Russo and 3 men Adrian didn't recognize. Salvatore wore an expensive suit that couldn't hide the violence in his frame. The scar on his left cheek, Adrian's handiwork, twisted as he smiled. Good morning, Adrian, Bianca said cheerfully. She crossed to his bedside, looking down at him with theatrical pity. I've brought visitors. Important business associates. Salvatore approached from the other side. Don Moretti. It's been a long time. Last time we met, you put a knife to my face. He traced the scar. Looks like karma's a bitch. Adrian kept his eyes vacant, drool carefully placed at the corner of his mouth. He can't hear you, Bianca said. The doctors confirmed. There's nothing left. Just reflexes and basic functions. Good, Salvatore pulled papers from his jacket. Then he won't mind when you sign these. Full transfer of assets, effective immediately. The Moretti Empire becomes a subsidiary of the Russo family operations, with you as the figurehead. Bianca took the documents, scanning them. And my payment. $5 million up front. 10% of all future earnings. Salvatore's smile widened. Plus the satisfaction of knowing you've conquered the man who treated you like property.
Bianca laughed.
He always said I was just a pretty face. That I couldn't understand the business. She accepted a pen from one of Salvatore's men. Let's see how he likes being the useless one. She moved to the desk by the window, spreading out the papers. Adrian watched through barely open eyes. This was it. The moment of betrayal, documented and undeniable. But where was Mila? She should have been here by now, witnessing this. One thing first, Salvatore said. He gestured to his men, who moved to the door, locking it. We need to discuss the timeline for the final transfer. Bianca looked up from the papers. Final transfer? Your husband's life insurance, darling. $20 million, payable on death. Salvatore's voice was cold now, businesslike. You sign those papers, making me the beneficiary. Then we arrange a tragic accident. Heart failure, perhaps. Very common in paralyzed patients. Bianca's pen stopped. We agreed he'd live. He's no threat like this. He's a loose end. And I don't leave loose ends. Salvatore pulled out a small vial from his pocket. Potassium chloride. Injected into his fore, it stops the heart instantly. Looks completely natural. You sign, I inject, we both walk away rich. The room fell silent except for rain dripping from the eaves outside. No, Bianca said slowly. This wasn't the deal. The deal changed. Salvatore's 3 men moved closer, blocking the door. You're already complicit in fraud, conspiracy, adultery. If you don't sign, I'll make sure the authorities know you orchestrated the attack on his convoy. I didn't, that was you. Your word against mine. And I have friends in very high places. Salvatore placed the vial on Adrian's nightstand. Sign the papers, Bianca. Or join your husband in whatever hell awaits. Adrian watched his wife's face cycle through emotions, shock, fear, anger, calculation. This was the moment. Would she choose money over murder? Or had she already crossed that line? The door burst open. Mila stood there, breathing hard, a phone in her hand recording everything. Step away from him.
Now.
Salvatore's men reached for their weapons, but Mila was faster. She pulled a badge from her pocket. Federal agent. Hands where I can see them. Chaos erupted. One of Salvatore's men lunged at Mila. She sidestepped, striking him in the throat with practiced precision. The man went down choking. Police.
Mila shouted.
This entire conversation has been recorded and transmitted. But Adrian knew the truth. The storm had knocked out transmission. Mila was bluffing, buying time. Salvatore realized it too. He grabbed Bianca, pulling a gun and pressing it to her temple. Nice try, sweetheart. But you're one agent against 3 armed men. 4. A voice said from behind Mila. Tommaso appeared in the doorway, gun drawn. Behind him, 3 more of Adrian's loyal soldiers. Make that 8. Tommaso corrected. Salvatore's eyes went wild. He swung his gun toward Adrian. Nobody moves or the vegetable dies. Adrian's hand shot up, catching Salvatore's wrist in an iron grip. The room froze. Adrian sat up slowly, eyes clear and focused, the drool wiped away with his other hand. Wrong, he said, his voice deadly calm. The vegetable rises. Bianca's scream cut through the air as Adrian rose to his feet, fully healed, fully aware, and absolutely done with playing dead. The moment Adrian stood, everything changed. Salvatore's face went white. His gun trembled in Adrian's crushing grip. You can't. Walk. Adrian twisted Salvatore's wrist until bones cracked. The gun clattered to the floor. Talk. Think. I've been doing all 3 while you plan my funeral. He released Salvatore, who stumbled backward, cradling his broken wrist. Adrian's movements were fluid now, no trace of weakness. 4 days of careful exercise, of hidden preparation, revealed in seconds. Tommaso, Adrian said calmly. Secure them. Tommaso's men moved fast, disarming Salvatore's guards. Within moments, all 3 were on their knees, hands behind their heads. Salvatore stood alone, fury and fear warring in his eyes. Bianca hadn't moved. She stared at Adrian like he was a ghost, her carefully constructed world crumbling. You were awake, she whispered. The whole time. Every word. Every insult. Every betrayal. Adrian picked up the documents she'd been about to sign. Asset transfers. Life insurance policies. Very thorough, Bianca. Almost professional. Adrian, please, I can explain. Explain what? That you hired assassins to kill me. He held up the vial of potassium chloride. Or that you were about to let Salvatore finish the job. That was his idea. I never wanted you dead. I just wanted my empire. My money. My respect. Adrian's voice was ice. Everything I built while you played the society wife.
Salvatore langed suddenly, desperate.
But Adrian was faster. Years of surviving assassination attempts, of fighting in close quarters, took over. He sidestepped, delivered a brutal elbow to Salvatore's temple. The man dropped like a stone. Stay down, Adrian warned. Mila had moved to block the door, her badge still visible, her phone still recording. But her eyes were on Adrian, watching him transform from helpless victim to apex predator. This was the man from her file. The killer. The Don. Mila, Adrian said without looking at her. You're getting your evidence now. Don't waste it. She swallowed hard. I'm recording everything. Good, Adrian turned back to Bianca. Tell her about the convoy attack. Tell her how you passed my route to Salvatore's men. Bianca's composure finally shattered. Tears streamed down her face. I didn't know they'd try to kill you. I thought they'd just
Scare you.
make you more careful, less reckless. Liar, Salvatore spat blood from his split lip. She knew exactly what she was ordering. She wanted you dead, so she could. Adrian kicked him in the ribs.
Hard.
I didn't ask you to speak. He grabbed Bianca's arm, not gently. You gave them my route, my timing. You knew what would happen. I didn't. But her eyes told the truth. The door behind Mila burst open. More men poured in, but these weren't Adrian's. Federal agents in tactical gear, weapons drawn. FBI. Everyone on the ground. Agent Beck led them, his face grim. He took in the scene. Adrian standing, Salvatore bleeding, Tommaso's men armed, Bianca crying. Torres, what the hell is this? Beck demanded. Mila held up her phone. A confession. Conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, attempted murder. It's all here. We lost your signal during the storm. We came as soon as. Beck stopped, staring at Adrian. You can walk. Surprise, Adrian said dryly. Arrest him.
Salvatore screamed.
Adrian Moretti, conspiracy, racketeering, murder. She has files on him. 8 months of surveillance. Beck looked at Mila. She met his gaze steadily. My investigation was focused on organized crime operations, she said carefully. What I found was a conspiracy by Bianca Moretti and Salvatore Russo to murder Adrian Moretti and illegally seize his assets. That's the case I'm presenting. Torres. Check my recordings, sir. Bianca admitted to providing information that led to the convoy attack. Salvatore brought poison to murder a helpless man. These are the criminals. Adrian watched her make the choice in real time. Badge or truth. Law or justice. She was choosing him. Protecting him by redirecting the investigation. Beck wasn't stupid. He understood what she was doing. We'll need statements from everyone. And Moretti, you're not walking out of here without answering some questions. I'll answer whatever you need, Adrian said calmly. After my wife and Salvatore are in custody. Chaos erupted again. Salvatore tried to run. Tommaso's men blocked him.
Bianca collapsed, sobbing.
Federal agents secured the room, separating everyone. In the confusion, Adrian and Mila stood near the window, a strange island of calm. "You saved me," he said quietly. "You saved yourself. I just documented it. You redirected their investigation. Protected me from your own people."
Mila S. jaw tightened.
"I followed the evidence to the real criminals. That's all."
Mila.
"Agent Torres." Beck called. "I need your statement."
Now.
She started to leave, but Adrian caught her hand. "When this is over, when they're done with statements and arrests and trials, I need to see you again."
Why?
"So you can thank me before you disappear back into your empire? So I can prove I'm worth the risk you took." His grip tightened. "You said you wanted to know if the man you saved was worth it. Let me show you." Mila looked at their joined hands, at the agents separating criminals from witnesses, at the life she'd known crumbling around her. "I have to testify against your wife. My career is probably over. And you," she met his eyes. "You're still a criminal, Adrian. This doesn't change that. I know. But maybe I can be something else. Something better." He released her hand. "If someone believes I can be." Beck called her name again, more insistent. Mila stepped back, professional mask sliding into place. "Give your statement truthfully. Don't run. Don't make me hunt you." "I won't." She walked away, badge in hand, recording device still running, documenting everything for a case that would destroy some lives and save others. Adrian watched her go, surrounded by federal agents and his own men, standing in the ruins of his marriage and the empire his wife tried to steal. He'd won, but victory felt hollow. Unless Mila kept her word. Unless there was still a chance for something beyond survival. Unless redemption was possible for a man like him. The estate was swarming with federal agents by noon. They separated everyone. Adrian to the library, Bianca to the dining room, Salvatore to a police van outside. Tommaso and his men were questioned in the East Wing. The mansion Adrian had built became a crime scene, every room scrutinized, every corner photographed. Adrian sat in his leather chair, the same one where he'd planned operations and ordered executions, now answering questions from a man with a legal pad and exhausted eyes. "Walk me through the convoy attack again," the agent said. Adrian did. Calmly, precisely, leaving nothing out. The bullets, the blood, Marco dying beside him. Finding the assassin. The woman with blonde hair and expensive perfume. "And you suspected your wife immediately." "She was one of 5 who knew my route. When the assassin described her, I knew." "So you faked the paralysis to catch her. To catch everyone involved." "I didn't know how deep the conspiracy went." Adrian leaned back. "Turns out it went deeper than I thought. My own security team compromised, legal documents forged, federal surveillance I wasn't aware of." The agent glanced up at that last part. "Agent Torres's investigation." "Yes. She's claiming she redirected her focus to your wife's conspiracy. That her original assignment became secondary to stopping an attempted murder." "That's what happened. You understand we have 8 months of surveillance on you. Evidence of illegal activities, money laundering, extortion." "I understand." Adrian met the agent's eyes. "And I'm prepared to cooperate. Full transparency on my operations, ledgers, connections. Everything you need." The agent's pen stopped. "You're offering to turn witness?" "I'm offering information in exchange for immunity and protection. My wife and Salvatore have connections throughout the city. Police, judges, politicians. If I'm arrested, I won't make it to trial." "That sounds like a threat." "It's a fact. And you know it." Adrian leaned forward. "You want Salvatore Russo? I can give you his entire network. Human trafficking routes, money laundering operations, the officials he's bought. I can dismantle his family from the inside. In exchange for immunity from prosecution, protection during the trial, and Agent Torres walks away from this without consequences." The agent studied him for a long moment. "You're in love with her." Adrian didn't deny it. She risked everything to stop a murder. She deserves better than to have her career destroyed for doing the right thing. "That's not your call to make."
No.
"But it's the only deal you're getting." They kept him for 6 hours. Questions, statements, negotiations. Adrian's lawyer, Janelli, finally allowed access, helped navigate the legal maze. The prosecutors wanted Salvatore more than they wanted Adrian. The math was simple. By evening, the deal was struck. Adrian would testify, provide evidence, cooperate fully. In exchange, immunity on his past crimes and protection during the trial. Bianca would face conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, and a dozen other charges. Salvatore, even more. And Mila's investigation would be closed, her evidence used only for the conspiracy case. Her career was still in question, but she wouldn't face criminal charges for obstruction. As the sun set, Adrian stood in the library alone. Through the window, he watched agents escort Salvatore to a federal vehicle. Then Bianca, in handcuffs, her perfect hair disheveled, her face streaked with tears. She looked up at the window, saw him standing there, free. Their eyes met one last time. Husband and wife. Two people who'd destroyed each other. Adrian felt nothing. The marriage had been dead long before the attack. This was just making it official. A knock at the door. Mr. Moretti? You're free to go.
Free.
What a word. He walked through his mansion, past agents packing evidence, past staff members giving statements. The empire he built was being catalogued, dissected, analyzed. Let them. He was done with it. Outside, Tommaso waited by a car. Boss, the men are asking. What happens now?
Now?
You run the legitimate businesses. Everything else, the protection, the gray areas, it's over. I'm out. Tommaso's eyes widened. You're walking away? I'm choosing something else. Something better. Adrian clasped his underboss's shoulder. You've been loyal for 15 years. That earns you the truth. I'm done with blood, Tommaso. Done with violence. If I have to lose everything to keep that promise, so be it. For her, the Fed. Adrian smiled, tired but genuine. For me, she just gave me a reason to try. 3 days later, Adrian sat in a federal holding facility, awaiting transfer to a safe house until the trial. The cell was clean, quiet, solitary. A far cry from his mansion, but somehow more peaceful. The door opened. A guard stepped aside.
Mila walked in.
She wore civilian clothes now, jeans, a simple sweater, her hair down. She looked younger without the maid uniform. Less guarded. They told me you were here, she said, staying near the door. You came. I needed to see if you kept your word. If you really testified. I did. Full cooperation. Salvatore's network is unraveling as we speak. Adrian stood slowly. And you? Your career? Suspended pending review. They're calling it administrative leave. While they decide if I'm a hero or a liability, she managed a small smile. Beck thinks I'm both.
I'm sorry.
Don't be. I made my choice. She stepped closer to the glass partition between them. I chose to save a life over making a case. I'd do it again. They stood on opposite sides of the barrier, two people from different worlds, connected by 4 impossible days. I meant what I said, Adrian told her. About proving I'm worth it. When this trial is over, when I'm free, I'm leaving this life behind. Building something new. Something clean. Can you really do that? Just walk away from who you were? I don't know. But I want to try. His hand pressed against the glass. If someone's willing to believe I can. Mila's hand met his from the other side, separated by inches of transparent barrier and years of different choices. I'll be at the trial, she said quietly, testifying for the prosecution. Then, we'll see. That's all I'm asking for. A chance. She nodded, eyes bright with tears she wouldn't let fall. You know this is impossible, right? A Fed and a mobster? Former mobster. That doesn't make it less crazy. No, Adrian agreed. But maybe crazy is exactly what we both need. Mila smiled, real, genuine, breaking through her professional mask. 4 days ago, I was a maid watching a paralyzed man. Now I'm visiting a Mafia boss in holding, hoping he'll actually change his life. And I really hope you do. Because I want to know who Adrian Moretti becomes when he's not fighting to survive. The guard announced her time was up. Mila stepped back, professional distance returning. But her eyes held a promise. This isn't goodbye. No, Adrian said. It's not. She left. The cell door locked. Adrian sat in the quiet, facing an uncertain future. He'd lost his empire, his wife, his reputation. Everything he'd built through blood and violence was gone. But somewhere between faking paralysis and rising from that wheelchair, he'd found something worth more than power. A reason to change. A woman who believed he could. And for the first time in 20 years, Adrian Moretti chose hope over fear, redemption over revenge. The dawn had fallen. But the man was just beginning to rise.